Welcome to Body Sculpt of New York, 6 Weeks to Fitness podcast, where we hope to inform, motivate, encourage, and inspire you towards living a healthier lifestyle. And now, here's your host, the president of Body Sculpt of New York, Vince Ferguson.
Cool. Hi, I'm Vince Ferguson. Welcome to 6 Weeks to Fitness, episode 194. Thank you so much for joining me today. Chris Manderino is a former NCAA and NFL professional athlete. He is the founder of Lifeview, a whole foods plant-based company that helps people achieve optimal health. Lifeview produces simple, functional products from trustworthy and sustainable sources. Very important. And joining me today on my podcast to discuss his journey from being a professional athlete to becoming a nutrition expert and now founder of Lifeview. Let's welcome Chris Manderino. Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you. So good to be here, and thanks for having me on the show.
Oh man, thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to dive into your story. But before we discuss Lifeview, let's discuss your childhood. Where did you grow up, and when did you know you wanted to be a professional football player?
Yeah, so I grew up in Southern California in Newport Beach, and my dad had played collegiate football at Michigan State, and so something that I would always dreamed of is playing, big time collegiate football, and obviously, like many kids around the world, and especially in America, dream of playing, professional football in the NFL. So I think, from as far back as I can remember, that was definitely my childhood dream to get to that level and play on the biggest stage.
Yeah, man. But how many of us get a chance to live out our childhood dreams? you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Were your parents happy that you wanted to follow your father's footsteps?
Yeah, I think my mom was a bit resistant because my dad had been pretty banged up. He had quite a few injuries, really bad injuries in college. And so I remember when I first wanted to play tackle football, I think I was about 8 years old, third or fourth grade, I want to say. And my mom's like, no, you're not playing. But I was really determined to play. And I was like, I don't care what you say. I'm going to raise the money if I have to pay for myself. I want to play.
Wow.
And so, they saw that, I really wanted to play football. And, I was doing a bunch of other things as a kid and playing a bunch of other sports, but football was something that I was always like the most adamant about.
Wow. Did you sustain any injuries while you were playing professional football?
Yeah, so of course, you're always injured. You're never 100% healthy, especially once you get to the higher up levels. But my first major setback was actually in high school. My sophomore year, I had a subluxation of my left shoulder. And so there's quite a bit of recovery. And I wasn't able to play some of the other sports that I was playing at that time because, I decided to get it surgically repaired during the off season. So that was, a big one. I always had some pretty bad ankle sprains, but never missed a game due to injury, both high school and collegiately. I'd broken my jaw in spring football going into my senior year at Cal, which was another pretty major injury. Unfortunately, it wasn't during the season. And the other ones, a bunch of kind of nicks and things. AC joint separation much later, and really, really bad ankle sprains at times which are pretty terrible. But
oh, most definitely, man. But how long did you play in the NFL, and what team did you play for?
So I was just on a short stint. I was a fullback. And so, when I was coming out of college, the NFL game had changed a ton. Offenses were really going away from that two-back set and really using, 4 or 5 wide receivers, just kind of evolving into that, air it out type offense. And so I think there's a total of, maybe 30, 40 jobs for playing fullback at that level during that time. So I was with the Bengals for a couple seasons. Nice. And then, I declined an offer to extend a contract there because I was sitting behind a guy who was on a pretty big contract. I think he was one of the highest paid fullbacks in the league at the time, and saw that, they had already made the investment. So I was kind of their insurance policy. So unless he got hurt or something, I wasn't really going to get the chance to be the guy in spite of everything that I was doing throughout training camp and everything, where, I was taking the starter reps, the ones, the twos and threes throughout training camp a lot of the time because he wasn't cleared to play for medical reasons due to, not working out in the off season and then, having to lose weight. And so, I was really doing the grunt of the work. And so that was a bit frustrating. And, I went into it with the intention of kind of giving it 3 to 4 years of either landing and being the starter or else moving on and doing something else. And so after 2 seasons with the Bengals, I went on and played or was battling it out for starting position in Kansas City. Didn't quite work out how I had intended and didn't make the final roster cut there. And so, that season went by. You're kind of hoping, waiting by the phone, trying to get, a tryout somewhere. But the reality is, with so few opportunities and starting positions, if you're not the guy, it's very unlikely that you're going to be called up during the season. The interesting thing about fullbacks is, we're pretty tough guys, and so we stay pretty healthy for the most part. Yeah. So, it doesn't happen that often that somebody gets hurt mid-season. But in hindsight, actually, the guy who I was sitting behind in Cincinnati ended up getting hurt in training camp, but then, they didn't call me back because it's kind of like, well, you left. And it's like, so there's kind of the business side of things too that you got to get used to. So
Yes. So, but from the Bengals, you went to where? Kansas City?
Oh, Kansas City. Yeah. Kansas City.
Chiefs. Yeah. Wow. But the Bengals went to the Super Bowl. Did you watch the game? Were you into that?
Yeah, I was into it. It was really cool to see them, get there. It's been so long for them, and they've got such a great fan base, and it's exciting. They got a great, young team. They're very talented, so I think they'll be good for a while. They really surprised a lot of people this year, and got past some really great and strong teams. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do if they can keep it going for years to come.
Oh yeah, most definitely. But now from the NFL, you went to Italy, and then something happened. Tell me about that experience and what led you to create Lifeview.
Yeah, so I have Italian heritage. My great-grandfather was the first one who immigrated from Italy to the United States. And so it's something that I was, always had this like strong affinity about, and like, our vast family traditions are all like rooted in Italian culture and stuff. So I'd always, dreamed of getting the chance to go over to Italy. I never really had the chance as an athlete because you're so dedicated and time crunched. Everything is sport. But post NFL, I had a former teammate from college who called me up out of the blue. I was in the process of kind of figuring out life after football. I thought I'd go the finance route because everything I had done outside of football was like finance related. And I was actually studying for my Series 7 at the time. I got a call from him and he's like, yo, what are you doing? He had recalled that I had said, if the NFL didn't work out, like I would love to just, extend the opportunity to continue playing and do it over in Europe, right? Not for the money, just for the love of the game and be able to travel and do all that stuff. And so as it turned out, his high school football coach had coached for some team in Italy the year prior, and he was connected with the team. They were looking for, players to come in for that upcoming season. And so he called him, my buddy called me. Next thing you know, I'm on a plane flight to Italy and saying, nice. All right, let's, see what this is all about. So it was awesome. It was such a cool experience. One, it really helped me work through that transition post-football, which is super tough when you've been doing something for as long as I had played football, right? Kind of from a mental standpoint and just, trying to figure it out standpoint, like what does this next chapter in life look like? And so, because in so few people, I guess it does end when you want it to end, right? It's kind of an abrupt thing. And you're just like, okay, I guess that's over. So now what? So, it was, I had a little bit of a resentment and a bitter taste in my mouth about like how it all ended. And it really made it tough to, even watch football or like be involved in it, for quite some time. But I think being able to play for the love of the game again, I was playing, running back and linebacker again, and not just a battering ram. And so it was really cool and really great to be a part of a team like that, where a lot of the guys are just out there because they just love the sport, right? And there's no like business side of it. It was just like for the love of the game. So, and it was such a cool experience because, you know, we had so much free time on our hands to really go experience the Italian culture and travel around Europe and stuff, and had a great group of guys that really made it feel like home over there. So yeah, it was an awesome experience.
Well, what led you, I know while you were there, you noticed some differences in the culture, the people, as compared to here in the States. What was that?
Yeah, so at that time, you know, I was kind of in my own like physical transformation because I no longer need to be 240 plus pounds to hit linebackers in the face anymore. They had me playing both sides of the ball, so I really needed to lean out to be able to do that at a high level. So I was kind of trying to lose some weight. And I really looked to diet as the main thing because I always worked out hard. I always trained, you know, like a beast. But you know, I started to see the value of nutrition and how impactful that was for, you know, recovery performance and body type and transformation. But what was really revealing to me is just, you know, one, how, you know, plant-centric the diets were, and then, you know, how they really took the time out of each and every day to kind of gather around the table. So the social aspect of eating together, either at lunch or dinner time, is like such a big deal in Italy. And the other thing that was kind of really enlightening to me is when I would go even buy like fresh produce or stuff from the supermarket, it wouldn't last very long, like less than a week, and stuff would be perishing. Whereas you go buy stuff in the States, it'll last you 2 months, like a tomato, right? And it's like, what's going on here? And so you start to, you know, dig into it a bit further, and you really start to understand, you know, there's a lot of things that go on in the American food system that just, you know, don't fly in other parts of the world. And European standards are really notorious for being a lot higher than, you know, what we've come to accept in our food system back home. And that really drove me to kind of continue to do a deep dive into the research behind like why that was and what was really going on with our food system. And you see it firsthand too, right? Like in Italy, yes, you do have more like carbohydrate rich foods, but you also have a lot more plant foods on the plate. You don't see obesity rates and, you know, chronic lifestyle issues, same rates that you do back in the US. And there's just like less dependence on ultra processed foods. They're not eating out of the box. They're, you know, really taking the time to cook and prepare these their meals. And, you know, a lot of those, you know, traditions have been passed down from generation to generation. And it's just so much a part of their culture and pride about how they, you know, source the ingredients and really create those meals.
Now, when we think about professional athletes, we think about guys and girls who are at the peak of their, you know, athletic ability. Now, how much did you weigh when you were playing, you know, football?
Yeah, my peak, I was 240, around 240 at the top. Yeah.
How tall are you?
About 6'1".
Big dude.
So, yeah. But it was tough for me because I was a quarterback and linebacker in high school. And so I think I walked onto University of Cal Berkeley around 200 and 205 pounds, and then got thrown into playing fullback. And so it was always a challenge for me to put on enough weight to compete at that level. And I was always kind of considered undersized for a fullback because in the NFL, even at 240, that's, you know, pretty lightweight for fullback standards. Most are, you know, 260 plus easily. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. But you didn't feel healthy at that weight.
No, you know, eating was really a chore, right? You just had to consume so many calories just to even maintain weight, and then, you know, hope that I could slowly ratchet up the scale as well and build strength and muscle and put on weight. But, you know, you just sit down and just pile down so many calories, and it was less about like the quality of the food, right? Because, you know, you're burning a bunch off and you're just adding like whatever it took, right? And that's where like more efficient fuel sources like protein shakes and those types of things you kind of come to depend on a lot of times as an athlete, just to get the extra calories in, especially when you're so time crunch. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff. Like I had like really major heartburn all the time. Like my gut was a disaster. And then like energy levels were kind of all over the place, right? You just want to go take a nap as soon as you crush a bunch of food, right?
Yes.
And so, and just overall like aches and pains by carrying, I think that amount of weight around for my frame, you know, it was just, you know, I could really feel it, and it was, you know, bringing me down. And then like, you know, even though I was big and strong, like it was definitely carrying a higher percentage of body fat than I was personally comfortable with as well. So like body image and stuff wasn't like ideal. And so I really, you know, wanted to change that after I was done playing.
Because also when you gain weight, it's not like you just gained it in your shoulders and your arms. You gained it in your gut as well, right?
Yeah, it'd be nice if you could just pick and choose where the weight goes on, right? But
Exactly.
the reality is, you know,
Exactly,
like it's not
man.
the way the body works. So yeah, I mean, my legs were massive, you know, obviously upper body and everything was massive, but you also carrying a little bit more about around the midsection and the gut and all that too. So yeah.
And as we get older, I'm not talking about when you get to the 40s and 50s and 60s, you don't want to be carrying that kind of weight around, you know?
No.
But yeah, exactly. You wouldn't know about that yet, but I'm saying down the road, you know what I'm saying? But you changed your diet. What happened? How'd you do that?
So, you know, so it's two parts, right? It was kind of N of one experimentation and this reading a ton of literature of like every type of like dietary discipline you could think of. So from like elite level bodybuilders to, you know, endurance athletes to, you know, what all like the nutritionists and health gurus and everything else was saying, right? And so, you know, I had went through like the slow carb diet that Tim Ferriss was kind of pushing out for a while. And then like I tried, you know, the whole ketogenic thing. And I was actually working for a company that put the first like ketogenic program on the market, which is around medical weight loss. And I kept like kind of gradually going toward like, as I kind of tried all these different diets and read all these different dietary theories, there was like one underlying theme that was like a plant-centric diet, so more plant-based foods, because they're so much richer in antioxidants and phytonutrients and all these amazing compounds that really lead to long-term health and recovery and performance and all that stuff. So like I continued to just make minor tweaks along my own personal transformation and ultimately landed on, you know, a more plant-centric diet, not necessarily exclusively vegan or anything like that, but a diet that really worked well for me, my energy levels. And now it really became to the point where the source and the quality of the food and the way it's made and where it comes from is of the utmost importance. And, you know, I do a lot of traveling too. So I try to eat like local cultures do for the most part, still being plant-centric as much as possible, but really looking past, I guess, just food as food and thinking about like all those different things that make it either nutrient rich and healthful or, you know, junk.
Yeah, either or.
Yeah.
So once you did that, so you went from 240 pounds to what when you changed your diet?
Yeah, so I got down, you know, I was probably floating around like 210, 215. I was pretty lean and you know, pretty ripped at that point. I'm around like 200 or so now. A lot less muscle, you know, when I was like 215 or whatever. And so, yeah, I feel really good around, you know, between 200 and 205, you know, and that's a good weight for me. I don't obsess over it, but it's, you know, that's just seems to be like the right metabolic set point for me now.
You're right. Are you currently exercising on a regular basis?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a major part of my life. It's just, you know, it's hugely important to me. And you know, I guess post football, I really took a big interest in CrossFit style workouts, and so I was doing that pretty consistently. And I was fueled by the competitive side of it, but also, you know, it was a big part of, you know, the type of training I did as an athlete. You know, more explosive and all that. The gymnastic stuff was kind of new to me, but like the other like the Olympic lifting and all that was stuff that I had always done, you know, as an athlete. So, but I took a little bit of a step back from like that level of like heavy lifting and heavy loads because it's starting to, have an impact on my body. And so now it's, kind of more, it's about functional mobility and functional fitness and obviously retaining lean muscle, because that becomes super important as you age, but, not to the point where, I'm so sore on Saturday morning, I don't want to do anything because I can't move my legs, so it's trying to find that right balance. And I've always been one to kind of seek out, different types of exercise and fitness and just, body movement, because I think, having like a diverse range of activities is something that everybody should try to enjoy and, kind of get out of, just like going to the gym and popping your earbuds on. Like that's good and all, but like, I like going on a hike in nature and just like challenging myself and my mind in different ways. So
diversifying, your fitness.
Yeah.
Great. And I like what you said about functional fitness. That's extremely important.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. That's great. Now, but you started Lifeview. Talk about that. What brought you to that? How'd you get it started? Because now you're an entrepreneur, not just an athlete.
Yeah. So it's a long journey. So I think like everything that we just discussed, like that was really like the base of all that, right? I always took a vested interest in my personal health and performance, and was looking for, a way to get the competitive edge, and whether, that was through nutrition or training or, just kind of film study or whatever, like that's important as a high level athlete. But it was really post football career when I was trying to figure out, what was next in terms of, life and business. And, I kind of made that full switch where the Italian chapter just ended 2008, so global financial crisis, and what I thought I would be doing wasn't really an option, right? All the jobs in finance had kind of dried up, and everybody's kind of like, well, what do we do? And I hadn't really established any career outside of football yet, right? It's a super challenging time, obviously, to be on the job hunt, and nobody's hiring. But I was fortunate that there was a guy who kind of followed my football career. He also played football, and he was the founder of a bariatric nutrition company, and said, "Hey, we're growing. If you're looking for an opportunity, we'd love to bring you in." And so didn't really know that much at all about like bariatric nutrition and the whole weight loss surgery space, because it's so opposite, what I was always focused on, which was like high level performance, and like, weight was an issue, but I wasn't, morbidly obese or something like anything that required me to do a deep dive. But it was so enlightening and so just provided a whole new perspective around like health and how paramount nutrition and diet are, right? For all that. So in bariatric nutrition market, there's people that are severely overweight, and basically they're at the end of the line, right? They need to have something that is going to really help them drastically lose the weight. And to do that, most of them have been through some sort of medical weight loss, have tried like every diet under the planet, but there's, some larger metabolic issues at play that really, through bariatric surgery is one of the best ways to really help shed that weight. However, depending on the surgery type, you're altering the anatomy of the human body, right? And so the most common procedure is gastric sleeve. You're bypassing the upper third of the small intestine, which is a primary binding site for key vitamins and minerals and other nutrients. And you combine that with, the smaller portions that you're eating due to the reduced stomach size, and you have a pretty large challenge of getting all your nutrients from food alone. And so it's part of the quality of care that that patient population needs to supplement with specific like fat soluble vitamins, B vitamins, and calcium, and obviously protein intake. And so this company had a full line around nutritional supplements that are specifically targeted for that medical purpose. And so during that time, I had grown from just like inside customer service representative, like answering phone calls and, chatting online and kind of helping people with their orders, to then being thrown into outside sales position and ultimately running like the West Coast for them. So it's traveling between like 7 or 8 different states. And yeah, and so for me personally, I was always still using like our products, like a meal replacement shake or something, because it was constantly on the go. I was traveling. I needed like quick and convenient fuel to kind of get me through the day. And I was also still training at a high level too. So I needed that convenient fuel source. But during that time, kind of near the end, where I was kind of thinking about, okay, what's next? Do I want to keep climbing the corporate ladder, or do I want to maybe go out and do my own thing? There's a company that was acquiring that business unit. So they wanted to kind of enter that marketplace, and were unsuccessful of doing it on their own. But they had really been at the forefront of like functional wellness, and really have an advanced scientific approach to how they formulate products. They've got a whole staff of PhDs, and it's just like, became this like amazing experience to just like see like the in-depth research about like the way that they formulate products, because they were approaching it pretty much like a pharmaceutical drug, but they're doing it from nature, and they're looking at all these amazing like phytonutrients and like naturally occurring compounds that exist in nature. And so it was really cool to have that experience, and it really kind of gave me the structure for what ultimately we used to launch LifeView. But the revelation, one was, I kind of had this personal desire to just kind of do something on my own. And then two, we were hearing when I was going around and educating patients and physicians about, the nutrition and how important it was. You would see the patients that were doing everything that they're supposed to, how much more healthful that they looked. Like their hair was full and skin looked great. Those that weren't doing everything that they're supposed to, even though they had lost weight, they still looked very sickly and unhealthy, hair's falling out and all that stuff, right? And so, I kind of learned why that was. And, basically when your body doesn't get everything you need from food, from a nutritional level, you flip a switch from long-term health to short-term survival. And that's really what we used as the backbone for starting LifeView, because we saw, a lot of the same nutritional deficiencies or insufficiencies exist in the general American population. And that's because the way our food system has changed so drastically in such a short amount of time, right? And so everything from diminished nutrient density of soil to everything that gets sprayed on crops, to the distance food travels before it even gets to the supermarket or our plates, and then even what we have come to accept as food, right, which is more chemicals than it is actually real whole foods. And so those things, along with my I guess individual personal drive to kind of do something on my own, and really culminated in what became LifeView.
Now you're the co-founder of the company, so you have a partner.
Yeah. I have a business partner who also has a background in sports and also in weight loss. He was actually involved with The Biggest Loser for a period of time, like doing Biggest Loser boot camps and all that. And so he had a business in the space, and he was doing some merger and acquisition stuff for a MMA fight that was going league that was going head to head with UFC. So he had previous background, he'd gotten his MBA from Booth Business School. And so there's kind of some complementary synergies there. And I think we had met through a mutual friend, and we just got to talking around like the weight loss space originally, because I was kind of shocked that they weren't doing more within the Biggest Loser organization to have kind of nutrition be more prevalent, right? It was all fitness based stuff and less like nutrition. I'm going, wow, there's you should do something there.
Exactly.
So that kind of got the ball rolling, and we ultimately aligned and spearheaded LifeView.
Beautiful. Now, how long has the company been around?
Yeah, so we've been commercially selling for a little over 6 years now. We were kind of developing our initial formulation and kind of setting up the business for about 1.5 years, 2 years. before launching. So we've been at it for quite some time. Yeah, before the plant-based craze like took off. Like we've been in the market for some time now, and it's been a fun journey.
Excellent. And I do believe I've heard of Lifeview before, being introduced to you. So it definitely has been around. No, exactly. Now, my question is, why is it better than most of the other plant-based products that's out there?
Yeah, so a few things. So the first thing is our approach to our formulations, right? So the first thing I mentioned is around like those key nutrient deficiencies or insufficiencies that exist in the general population. So if you look at the meal replacement category, let's say, which is kind of our hero product, kind of falls into that. I'll tell you why it's different on a macronutrient level, but the meal replacement category as a whole, typically they'll put like between 10 and 20% daily value of like 20 vitamins and minerals, right? Okay, check the box, right? It's got vitamins and minerals in it. Cool. So now we can call it a meal replacement, right?
Right.
However, the challenge with that is there's no science behind, okay, why 20% or why 30% of every single nutrient? Most of that stuff you're getting enough of through the diet alone. But there's certain things like vitamin D and magnesium and iodine and vitamin K2, which almost no meal replacements contain K2 or D3 or some of the ingredients that we have. So it was really about nutrient density first and really filling the most common nutritional gaps that exist in the human diet. And there's a couple companies out there that are doing this now through like a multivitamin. But the problem is with the multivitamin, you're not getting your protein. It's not coming from real whole foods. It's missing your greens. It's missing all these other phytonutrients and benefits. So it's kind of checking that box of, I guess, filling in nutrient gaps, but not in the best possible way. So with our product, that's one of the main drivers of difference. The other one is most meal replacement shakes in the category are super high in carbohydrates. Most you'll see like 30, 40, sometimes 50 grams of carbohydrates per meal, and most are very high in calories. And, when you think about, the American diet, we don't have a carbohydrate problem. We don't have a calorie problem. We're getting plenty. We're already getting plenty.
Too much. Yes.
Exactly. So what we wanted to do, we wanted to have a nutrient-rich shake that allowed people the flexibility to add calories if they wanted to, or add carbohydrates if they wanted to, but would also appeal to somebody who's trying to do a low carb diet and lifestyle and keep that at a minimum amount, right? Because it's easy to add in, a half a banana or, a type of liquid, and you can jump up the carbohydrates pretty quickly. Right. But you throw half a banana in any of those other shakes, you're at 100 something plus carbs in one sit in a liquid meal, right? So that didn't really make sense. And really, when you look at that, you're going to generally see a massive like blood glucose spike as well, right? So obviously, and the feedback we've received is like this stability in energy levels, right? You're going to see much more stable energy levels because you're not going to see that huge blood sugar spike and then crash, which kind of defeats the purpose of using that product to begin with, right? So I think a lot of the products in the category, they're trying to check a couple boxes, like, okay, we've got some nutrients, and because it's so large in quantity, like 100 grams, in a powder size or 80 grams of powder, it'll fill you up, right? But you drink a gallon of water and that'll fill you up too. Right? So like our approach is like our serving size is only 35 grams, so it's a bit lighter, but because of the nutrient density, it still does the job of filling you up, but also filling those nutrient gaps. And then the other big area of emphasis, which we're pushing into now across all the products we have, is being 100% whole food plant-based. So we're already 100% plant-based from the start. But I think the biggest distinction that we're moving in, that very, very few companies on the market, I don't know any, that have everything that we have in terms of nutrient density and doing it all from real whole foods. And that means that there's no synthetic ingredients in the products. It's all chemical free. It's like the cleanest and purest source of nutrition that you could ever put in your body. So that's really like, if you think about the nutrition space, like there's LifeView, we're like the Ferrari of nutrition, and then there's everything else. A simple analogy. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. What about when it comes to protein?
Yeah, so there's protein in our product, which is also extremely important. And I think when you get into plant-based proteins, right, they've always kind of had a bad rap because, myself and, any bodybuilder, any athlete, they've always been said, okay, we got to have whey protein, right? Because it's the most easily digestible. Yeah, there you go. So, I was sold that nutritional theory too, right? But when you think about whey protein, right? So it's a dairy derivative, right? It comes from milk production, right? And when you get into the challenges with dairy, it's not the best, I guess, health food, right? So with dairy, there's no real phytonutrients, antioxidants. You're not getting any of that stuff that really contribute to optimal recovery, right? So you're getting protein, but that's about it. And when you get into like the intolerances that exist around dairy, like the percentages of people who are lactose intolerant are very high, even more so in anybody of color, like way more higher incidences of lactose intolerances, like anybody in the Asian American community, there's like almost 100% of people like don't do lactose at all. So that actually creates an inflammatory response by the body if it's seeing, you're throwing whey protein in and it's going, what the heck is this stuff? It's, you're going to kick off this inflammatory thing. And there's a lot of interesting science around other potential negative health conditions more associated with dairy, right? Now, I don't know how much of that gets stripped out of whey protein, but being that it is still dairy based, you're going to see some of that still resolve. Right. For me, I would always have like my GI issues anytime I would guzzle down a whey protein shake. You just have like that rumbling gut or, gas or whatever, all that stuff that's unpleasant, right?
Definitely, yes.
And so, when I started, personally using plant-based proteins, like the market at the time, there wasn't a lot out there. And it's like, honestly, it all tasted like dirt. It was really nasty, and so it was really tough to like, even knowing that it was like potentially better for me, like it was really tough to wrap my head around like having to consume that on a regular basis, especially after like just crushing yourself in a hard workout. You really wanted something like enjoyable and delicious to look forward to after you've done that and nourishing. And so, that was a big part of our product development process, is like not just to make it the best from a nutritional standpoint, but also to get it to taste really good without having to throw a bunch of artificial ingredients or a bunch of sugar into it, which would then compromise the nutritional integrity that we started with in the first place. So the interesting thing, and really digging into the science further, we when we eat protein or we drink protein, our body is just breaking that down into individual branched chain amino acids, right? Which play different roles in the body. And when it comes to, let's say, muscle building or something, it's really the three leucine, isoleucine that are doing the most, work in terms of muscle protein muscle protein synthesis, right? So I guess it really depends. Like, I guess the conversation around protein, if it's for like what is your health goal, right? Are you a professional athlete? How much are you working out? Because that will determine your protein intake. When it comes to plant-based protein versus like dairy-based proteins like whey, you can get the equivalent amount of protein. You're probably going to get a higher bioavailable absorption of the protein, and you're going to get those trace vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. And when you combine different proteins like pea and rice, which we do in our products, they have complementary amino acid sources. So you have that complete protein that is equivalent to whey. And they've done a lot of studies that show, that combination of protein is, equivalent to what you would get in animal-based proteins without, all the undesirable side effects. And when you come look at the planet, right, and the amount of resources it takes to make like 1 kilogram of whey protein, right, because it's such a small derivative of dairy, the expenditure of water and, resources and the deterioration that, these large scale dairy farms have on the planet versus, the minimal amount of inputs that it takes to grow pea and rice and some of these plant-based foods.
Yes.
It's, it's pretty clear that that's like a better choice. So, yeah, that's kind of the argument there of plant-based versus animal protein.
So if you're trying to work out and build muscle, you're saying your plant-based protein is even more, just as effective or even more effective and safer to use for the body.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
Makes sense. Now, what are your main selling products right now?
So our hero product, since our inception, has always been the essential shake. The drives. Yeah. So that is really the foundational product, because that is going to meet all your daily nutritional needs, fill the nutrient gaps, right? So you can't really skip past that one, because if you have, nutrient gaps, then your body is not going to be able to perform or work at its best potential, right? So that really helps to fill the nutrient gaps, but also give you a clean and efficient fuel source that will help you get your day started, get you as a nice drink in between meals. And so that's really the hero product. That's where we're leaning into more, is around like this vertical of essential nutrition. And so we're going to have different formats using the same custom vitamin and mineral mix and that whole food mix that we've created, but now have it in like a bar format or a ready to drink format or a single serving instead of just a large bag. So just make it more convenient for people to get that same kind of well-rounded source of nutrition, but just enjoy it in different ways. And so that's kind of going to be the core of our focus going forward. And then we'll have like a small set of additional products that we're doing some stuff now in the adaptogen world in the nootropic, which is still centered around that whole food approach, but using like medicinal mushrooms and botanical herbs to elevate focus and concentration, or give you nice clean energy throughout the day, or help you wind down and sleep better, or help stabilize mood. So like adaptogens can be very powerful in that way, and kind of turn up or turn off some of the things that might be a little out of whack for you. And so that is individualized, obviously, depending on like what you feel you need and also what you might be struggling with. And so instead of just like taking a random adaptogen and hoping that it's always next, because like if you get into herbalism, like for centuries, like specific herbs, like that was how the medical world operated for so long. It was through these different plant-based remedies. Yes. And so like we really want to use the science behind those to make that approachable and easy for people to address some of these common ailments and issues that come with modern day lifestyles, to kind of help optimize around those things.
Great. I know we were plant-based before the Rockefeller Foundation got involved and took over the American Medical Association.
Yeah, exactly.
And now we're petroleum-based. I mean, whatever.
Yeah. Well, and that's the crazy thing about the supplement world too, right? Petroleum is in everything, from our drugs to our vitamins and minerals, right? So most of the supplements on the market are petroleum based, which most people have no idea, because there's not really a whole lot of regulation that goes what needs to go on the label, right? So it's natural, it's this, it's that, it's the greatest thing,
Exactly.
But if you look at how it's actually made, where it's coming from, most of them are chemical based.
Wow. Again, I went a little longer than I planned on, because you had so much value added here. And so where can we find out more about your products? Where can we order them and find out more about you as well, Chris?
Yeah, the best place is just through our website, which is Life Fuel. That's life with a Y, LYFEFUEL.com. It's really the best place to kind of learn more about what we're doing as a company, see if the values and the mission that we're on resonate and align with, kind of your personal values and your health goals. And we do have like a transformation program. So anybody that's trying to, make sustainable changes in their life and not sure where to get started, that's a great way to experience Life Fuel, and you get a ton of like nutrition advice and health coaching and all these like daily habit things that really contribute to long-term health, because it's not just, our products that are going to get you,
Right.
where
Yeah.
you want to be. It's the whole approach, right? And so it's all these little different micro habits, daily movements, mindfulness, all these things that really contribute to long-term health. And that's really what we want to foster and teach with that program, and also kind of turning people back on to, where our food comes from, how important that is for both personal wellness, but also planetary health as well.
Most definitely. Couldn't have said it better. That sounds really good. Now, what's the name of your main product again? It's the Essential
Shake.
Essential Shake.
Yeah,
That can be
exactly.
used as a meal replacement in between meals.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So most people will start their day with it. We have a lot of people that are trying to kind of kickstart like a weight loss journey. So they're trying to minimize their caloric load. So they'll use that as a great way to do that, yet still curb their appetite and their hunger. But yeah, it's also great as just like a daily multivitamin, but you're also getting all those amazing benefits. You're getting a healthy amount of protein, everything from real whole foods.
When you mentioned vitamin D, how much D is in the actual product? How many IUs?
Yeah, so in our Essential Shake, I believe we have 2,000 IUs of vitamin D3 per
Really?
serving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
90 micrograms of vitamin K2, which, both those together are super important for bone health, cardiovascular health, right? So most people don't even know, what the benefit of K2 is. They think about vitamin K as a blood thinner, but K2 and D3 really go hand in hand for cardiovascular. It helps to shuttle calcium to the body and out of the arteries and into the bones. And so one without the other is kind of lapsing. And unless you're eating a ton of fermented foods, which again, in the American diet, we're just not, you're probably not getting any K2 really. And then vitamin D, right? It's super challenging to get enough vitamin D, even if you are in the sun a lot, we're covering up with sunscreen and everything else. We're just like, yeah, exactly. And so those are the things that we really wanted to emphasize and put in elevated amounts. So you don't have to go, take another vitamin and mineral, and next thing you know, you've got this cabinet full of supplements. This is a more comprehensive and simplified approach to nutrition.
I'm going to have to look into that because I take vitamin D3 and K2 together.
Yeah.
Like telling me that I'm getting 2,000 IUs of D3 and whatever else you were saying. I'm sure you're getting ample vitamin C as well. What, 500 milligrams maybe? What are you putting in there?
Yeah. So there's about 50% of the daily value of vitamin C. Most people get enough vitamin C as it is. Some people would like to boost that up for immunity purposes. So in an upcoming formulation, I think we're going to kick up the vitamin C a bit more. But yeah, so I think the important thing to also mention, right, is knowing where you stand, getting your blood levels tested, right? Because this is not necessarily a therapeutic dose, right? It is a baseline dose, right? So it's going to definitely, if you're vitamin D deficient or you're deficient in one of these things, you probably need to kind of super boost that for a period of time, retest, make sure you stabilize. Once you're back at kind of normal, healthy levels, then you want to have something like our Essential Shake, or do that at the same time while you're trying to get those levels back up. But typically you have to obviously overcompensate for that deficiency to get it way back up. So,
well, you definitely did your homework. You know the science, man.
Well, it needs to start with the science, right? And it's unfortunate that not, every product on the market really does start with the science, because that's where it should start. So,
and I will say this: true science, not just any science. True science.
There's a bunch of pseudo-science, and it's easy to kind of manipulate paper. There's a lot of funding behind certain stuff to get it to look a certain way, but the true science.
Thank you. And how affordable your Essential Shakes?
Yeah, so for what we offer, I think it's the best value on the market. I think per meal, it's around $2.56. Most of our competitors are upwards of $4 or $5 per meal. So if you look at what has gone into our product, where the ingredients come from, the overall quality, and the value that you get for your money, you can't there's nothing that comes close. Yeah, hands down. And if you think you have something, I'd love to take a look at it, because I can very quickly, I've got like an entire Excel spreadsheet of almost every product in the category and are side by side. So I know this pretty confidently that there's nothing that compares to what we've created.
So you're not just saying it, you believe it.
No, yeah, and I can prove it too. So
I'm in. I hear you, man. No, I'm going to try out your product. I'm sold. I think it'll be a nice replacement. So with that being said, man, again, I went over, took a lot more of your time than I expected to, man, but this has been great. But Chris, I want to say on behalf of my organization, Body Scope of New York, that's my nonprofit, and 6 Weeks of Fitness, I want to thank you for coming on the show today.
Oh, it's been a blast. Thank you so much for having me. This has been great. And hope your audience finds it useful. And, we're happy to help them out on their journey.
Excellent, man. And to my viewers and listeners, I truly hope this program was encouraging and inspiring, that you will continue tuning in to my 6 Weeks of Fitness podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show, please leave them in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And remember, we don't stop exercising because we grow old. We grow old because we stop exercising.